Good morning. Let's call the Rankin County Board of Supervisors to order September 2nd, a little bit after 9 o'clock. At this time, Craig Slay, would you have our invocation for us, please?
Bill. Let's just go to Lord in prayer. Father, we just stop and pause for a moment. Father, we just acknowledge how good and gracious to us you are, how much you bless this county. Father, we ask that you favor us with your presence today, that you would provide, Father, the wisdom that we need to make good and wise decisions for all of the county. Father, I pray for these gentlemen that they would recognize, Father, their responsibility, and beyond that, Father, they would derive great satisfaction out of the service that they render our county. We thank you for all of the county employees, Lord, and those who sacrifice every day to make this a better place to live. Father, thank you for the freedoms that we enjoy to come and to conduct the business of the county together. In Christ's name.
Amen. Thank you, Craig. Well, it takes great pleasure in me to introduce Miss Ebony Bingham. Miss Bingham, she's a JSU student. Is that correct? You're doing some budget analysis and things like that. Is that what you're working on?
Yes, I'm getting my master's in public policy and administration.
Great.
And, we were asked to attend a budget meeting.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we appreciate you attending today. And so looks like you live out here on Shenandoah Road. That's great. Thank you so much for being here. This time I have Miss Judy Fortenberry. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I just want to take a minute to give you a report on our tax sale that we had last week. For the benefit of some of those in the audience who may not understand all there is to know about a tax sale, every year when the last Monday in August, we hold an auction right here in this room for the amount of the taxes plus interest to that point. It is an auction, so we take overbids. The law states, however, that the overbids are kept by the county. It's not refunded to the bidder when the property is redeemed.
Right.
Last year, we made about $250,000 in overbids. This year, we had 3,199 parcels that went into the tax sale, which is about the same amount of parcels. But this year, we had $348,000 in overbids.
That's wonderful.
Wow.
Heck yeah.
So just wanted to let y'all know.
Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Why I got a question. Why would they be such a great difference as far as with roughly the same numbers?
Mainly because we had one guy from California, and I'm not sure of the company, it was an investment company. He went up to 20% sometimes.
Okay.
He averaged about 15%, 14 to 15%. If he wanted a parcel, he got it,
He
no matter
would.
how high he had to go.
I
So
see.
that's really what boosted it so much.
He came ready to spend.
I mean, if he put his hand up, we went ahead and wrote his number down and just waited to see how much he's going to overbid.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for all the hard work y'all do.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we have old business minutes approval of August 13th and August 15th, 2014.
So move. Second.
Motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Johnson. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Mr. Craig Slay, Board Attorney.
Yes. Mr. President, item 5 on the agenda is the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2015 budget. At this time, we'll open that public hearing. I will ask if there is anyone here to speak with respect to the proposed fiscal year 2015 budget. Anyone? Mr. President, unusually, I don't see anyone here to speak on the proposed fiscal 2015 year budget. We'll close that public hearing. I believe your tax assessor will have a matter under his section that you will then address the budget.
All right. Thank you, sir. This time, we have consent agenda items.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Johnson. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Correct.
John Sullivan, tax assessor.
Correct.
Just 2 items. Approved to accept the disallowances on certain homestead exemptions for the 2014 on J6A 5450 and H11H 10180.
So move. Second.
Motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Johnson. Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
And item B, order to approve the 2014 recapitulation for the real and personal property assessment rolls.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Bishop. Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
I was fixing to say, what else we gonna do here?
I don't know, he caught me as off guard.
Maybe you wanted to add something there, John.
Something he wants to say. I'm still waiting on my coffee.
Mr. Dale Westbrook, Road Manager.
I make a motion to approve work accomplished and schedule.
So
Motion
moved.
by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Morrison. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Dale. Charles Parker, County Consulting Engineer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have 3 items on the agenda. The first item is a development called Grace Landing. And this morning, I'll tell you, it's out at kind of the intersection of Mount Helm and Old Highway 471. We did hold a preliminary development conference on the development. So this morning, I'm recommending approval of that preliminary plat.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Morrison. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda is a development called Clover Valley, which is out basically at the intersection of Baker Lane and Andrew Chapel. We held a preliminary development conference on this development. They're looking at about 90 lots in there. They're looking at 2-acre size lots. So this morning, I would recommend approval of that preliminary plat.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a
Motion approved.
Second.
Get to the end of Baker Lane and you turn left,
That's correct.
just go straight past
Straight
that
into
new
it.
development on the left and it'll be on the left.
Then on the left, that's correct. Yes, sir.
Won't go down that side street.
No, sir.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Bishop. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. Third and last item that I have on the agenda is development called Saddle Ridge, which is out off of Ehrlich Road. And they're talking about possibly 16 to 18 lots. They're looking at larger lots, possibly 3, 4, 5, 6 acres, just depends. We had a preliminary development conference on this development. It appeared to be in order. I think there's a zoning issue.
That's correct. It needs to be rezoned.
Do what now?
It's zoned RE1A, which doesn't allow for development of subdivisions in that area, so it does allow them to rezone,
Okay.
to seek
So they'll-
rezoning.
They'll need to do, we'll need to do that, or they'll need to do that, okay.
That's correct.
So we don't vote on the preliminary
Well,
plat before we do that, do we?
I'm recommending approval of preliminary plat contingent upon the zoning, if that's okay with the board.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Morrison,
Second.
second by Mr. Bishop. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Buster, on items A and B, those are also larger lots, aren't they?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, that Grace Landing's only gonna have, it's either 7 or 8 lots. They're larger lots. Of course, we mentioned Clover Valley, which is the larger lot. And this Saddle Ridge is even larger lots.
It's the smallest one, I think, the minimum was 3,
Right.
and then it
3
went up.
up.
3 up, it could be 10.
They may end up with something like, I won't call them mini farms, but something along that line
Right.
in there. Keep in mind, this is just a preliminary plat approval. Yes, they can determine what they want to do with the development now.
This will need to be zoned what way?
RE1,
Why can we not do a
RE1.
subdivision on RE1A?
it doesn't allow for the development of subdivisions. It just says it may be considered as a transitional area and they would be allowed to rezone.
Per the codes.
The thought process is that under zoning, the context we're talking about here, subdivisions, generally speaking, are obviously higher density. They have a lot more infrastructure requirements. And the thought process is that in the rural areas, you're gonna get an incentive to go out and get cheap land and make it difficult, more difficult for the provision of county resources, policing, fire protection, other things. So by setting up your zoning to say they're not allowed, Jay, there's a default setting that you're pushing it into the already more developed areas. That's just philosophically, that's how the zoning usually goes.
Well, how else do you end up with subdivisions of 1 acre or more?
Well, that's not in an RE1A. You gotta come in and get it rezoned.
To R1? How about, I didn't know that.
RE1.
RE1, okay.
We
All right.
have more rural type development, but the A allows it to retain
Mobile
the
homes.
agricultural characteristics that are there to begin with.
So it's got to go
It's a
back
mixed
to
district.
agriculture?
The RE1A is a
Okay.
mixed district.
It'll have to go back to, no,
RE1.
R, RE1.
Yeah, residential estate,
Okay,
that's
yeah,
1 acre.
okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So the A would mean they would be able to put
Do what?
That's
manufactured homes
Correct.
in a way.
And, you know,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. All right.
Okay. All right, thank you, Bud.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Craig Slade, Board Attorney.
Mr. President, the first item is a public hearing on the Mike Rozier Construction Dimensional Variance Request. This is 829 Highway 469 North in District 1. Mr. Rozier's company is requesting a 6.6-foot variance from the rear setback of 20 feet. That's our typical variance. And a variance from the required parking space, which is 42 down to 32 on property located at 829 Highway 469 North. This is a 1.22 acre parcel zone C2. They propose to construct a 9,020 square foot building for a Dollar General store. There is a vacant small church on the property at the present time. So at this time, I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in the Mike Rozier Construction Dimensional Variance Request hearing. Anyone? Rozier. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to Mr. Rozier's request?
Do what?
Mr. President, I don't see anyone to speak in opposition. If you have questions, Mr. Rozier's here.
Mr. Rozier, what was your variance as far as parking?
They're asking for 32 spaces in lieu of the 42 required.
42 down to 32?
And that's a typical request for DG or their typical parking size.
Right.
And they base that on their, hourly cars per hour sales figures
Okay.
they have.
So you figure 32 will be enough then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
When you propose to start this, I think it's a great idea.
We're still in due diligence phase. This is the, a step to get everything approved by DG, but probably within the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, great. I've not heard anything but positive.
Yeah.
All the questions come up and just, what is it gonna be? What's
Sure.
going on? Yeah.
They seem to be real popular these days.
Well,
it's just
it's a
also
great
in
place
the-
for that.
Right, it'd be an improvement to for the community.
That area.
There, that area.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
I don't have any.
Thanks.
We'll close that public hearing. It'd be appropriate to take action.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Johnson to approve. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Item B is a public hearing on the P&Q Developer LLC Dimensional Variance Request. This is Willow Grand 2, Phase 3. It's affecting 4 lots, 58, 61, 62, and 63. This is a District 2 property. P&Q Developers LLC is requesting a dimensional variance for those 4 lots that are in Willow Grand 2, Phase 3. It's zoned R1C. The applicant is asking for a 5-foot variance from the rear setback of 20 feet due to the lots being located in a cul-de-sac and having short side lot lines that prohibit building within the normal setbacks. So at this time, we'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in opposition to the P&Q Developer LLC dimensional variance request. Anyone? Mr. President, I don't see anyone. We'll close that public hearing And if it's appropriate, you can take
Let-
action.
Let me ask you a question on this. Hey Buster, I know it's a cul-de-sac. Is that where we had so much problem because it is a cul-de-sac with trying to fit the homes on those lots? Is that,
No, not this particular situation. We have that problem sometimes because of the shape of the cul-de-sac.
right,
As you know, you can come down the street and you got plenty of room and so forth. And when you get in this cul-de-sac, you got lots of end up high shape, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And all that creates problems. But to my knowledge, no solution to that problem.
but they're asking a variance of 20 feet
No.
to
5-foot variance.
just a 5 foot.
Would be typically 20 feet on the setback. It's
20
gonna be
down to 15?
Yes, sir.
So 5 foot down, okay.
I see no problem.
Okay, but all this was looked into, I guess, previously before all the, okay.
So
We
actually
kind of
met with development.
anticipated this or not? As far as a variance?
I think we noticed that those lots were going to be a little tight for them, but I don't know if there was any discussion at that time
Okay.
that we looked at the development.
We just knew it was going to be somewhat of a small problem.
Gotcha.
That we need this.
Okay. All right. And we're closed the public hearing already,
Yes, sir.
right?
It's closed.
I'll entertain a motion to,
Motion approved.
got a motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Johnson. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Item C is the public hearing on the Jeanette Patrick conditional use request, 916 Andrew Chapel Road. This is District 4. Ms. Patrick is requesting a conditional use for a 2016 by 80 manufactured home that has been placed on the property at 916 Andrew Chapel. It's an 8.16 acre parcel zoned RE1. This will be the third dwelling on the property. This time we'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in opposition to the Jeanette Patrick conditional use request. Anyone? Mr. President, I don't see anyone to speak in opposition on this matter. We'll close that public hearing. It'd be appropriate to take action.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Morrison. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Item D is a public hearing on the Timothy and Ora Johnson conditional use request, 280 Mount Helm Road, District 4. Timothy and Ora Johnson are requesting a conditional use to place a 2014 16 by 76 manufactured home on the property at 280 Mount Helm Road. It's a 1.037 acre parcel zoned RE1. The lot is part of a piece of family land that has been divided. Access to the property is on a private drive. If the board approves the conditional use request, the property owners along the private drive will be required to execute a restrictive covenant document that states that the road will remain private until it is brought into compliance with the county's subdivision regulations. We'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone to speak in opposition to the Timothy and Ora Johnson conditional use request. Anyone? Mr. President, I don't see anyone present to speak in opposition. We'll close that public hearing. Be appropriate to take action.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Morrison. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Item E is a public hearing on the CIA Autoplex conditional use request at 1902 Highway 471, again, District 4 property. CIA Autoplex is requesting a conditional use to expand their current auto sales lot at 1931 Highway 471. The existing business is located on the west side of 471 inside the city limits of Flowood. They are looking to purchase the property that was the Mitchell Jones Seafood and Country Buffet, and that is at 1902 Highway 471 to expand and grow their business. This is a 1.97 acre parcel zone C2. Adjoining parcels are all C2. They would like to place between 30 and 50 vehicles for sale on the property and continue with the same hours of operation, which is Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 6 and 9 to 2 on Saturday. This time we'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in opposition to the CIA Autoplex conditional use request. Mike, please come forward. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All you need to do is state your name and who you are and where you live.
Butch Lee. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. Just a
Thank
couple of things on this
Just found out about it late last week, and I've contacted our board, and the board, basically I'm speaking on behalf of my personal behalf and also on the city of Brandon. One key thing that we got from the Department of Transportation last week that we've long awaited for 25 years was an MOU to begin construction of the 471 project outside the city of Brandon. That traffic corridor is going to increase dramatically, and those property values are going to go up. We'll be returning this back to MDOT tomorrow. Very glad to hear that. Nobody's gotten that from the city of Brandon yet, Chuck. The other reason is it is in our annexation path, and we have been wrestling with for the last year directions to go and how far to go. And I would say that on behalf of the city of Brandon, we're probably 60 days out, 90 days at the most of being able to make a determination of how far we're going and where. You know, a little bit reluctant to say that publicly, but we'll say that publicly in here. So in this particular piece of property, it's surrounded by C2, so you're basically eating up an entire commercial corner, which is something to consider. You know, you can imagine what might come in those other lots around that particular location. So on behalf of not only the residents inside the city, but those residents that live along 471, I think we've got enough used car lots, if you will, from Highway 80 to 25, and just I think this would be a detriment to surrounding property owners to allow this in this particular area. Questions?
Yeah, let me clarify one thing. Are you saying then, as far as the board also, are they opposing too? Is this a collective action
It
from the
is
board?
collective, or I would not be here speaking on behalf of the city.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
How long, I mean, you're speculating that you're gonna move out this far, correct?
Correct. There's been a gentleman's agreement between the city of Flowood and the city of Brandon for a number of years with Vine Street as the benchmark of Flowood not coming further south and Brandon not attempting to go further north. That's all it is. I don't think you
The only
force
thing
it
with this
along.
development is so far from, I guess you'd say, the city limit, you know, the populated area of Brandon.
Right.
You know, it's, even if you incorporate this in, it's still way out.
It's less than 3 miles, and we have also bought 5 acres on Grants Ferry Road. We're about to begin building a fire station. So it's actually 3 miles from that intersection to that fire station. So, you know, an ulterior goal here is to be able to provide fire protection to all those areas between Vine Street and the current city limits of Brandon, which is Hillcrest. So we will build that station regardless of what happens. And
Right.
we'll be going in that location.
When do you foresee that, and I know it's a little bit out of the purview of it, but when do you anticipate building that fire station?
That fire station will be part of a bond package this fall. We could be going into construction on that as early as January, February, March of next year.
Okay.
So we're wrestling with, we know we're going to build 1, we're about 90% sure we're going to build 2, and we're wrestling with whether or not we should build 3.
So I guess without, and it's still speculation of which direction you may go as far as
I'm not at liberty,
annexation.
I don't want to speak for the board.
Right, but it sounds like just from this board, even though it sounds like you have, if you're gonna put the fire station within 3 miles of that area, you're within your 5-mile range of what could be.
We will be putting a station on the corner of, I believe it's Grants Ferry Road and Warner Drive.
Right,
That's that 5-acre corner right there.
gotcha,
That's number 1 on the list.
right. Okay. Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I think it would be appropriate at this time to ask if anyone from CIA is here that may want us to speak on this matter with the board's purview.
You want to come on forward? Yeah. Thank you, sir.
A little bit of that went over my head as far as, you know, what's going on, you know, and all that, but I've been operating on Highway 471 now for going on 8 years, run a very respectable business, presentable as well, we look good, Better Business Bureau A+ for 8 years now, so I think it's gonna bring a lot to, I mean, Flowood city limits now, kind of outgrown that place. Definitely not a typical car lot. I think I could bring a lot to the city, so.
Well, let me ask you a question. When you brought up the city of Flowood, do you have any intentions in the future of making, if this were granted, would you keep both locations, or are you looking at possibly moving everything over to the?
Everything eventually over. What's happened, I've outgrown that location, and my business has grown at a steady pace, and the size of the property, it's not necessarily the location, but the size of the property and the layout would work good for,
How big of a location
future.
is the one that? You're
It's just a
proposing?
hair over 1 acre
Okay, and right now you have a what? How big is your lot right now?
in size,
Right.
just a hair over 1 acre.
This one's two.
This
one's
two.
two, right. This
Right, the
one's two.
proposed is 2 acres.
Right.
Okay, so you would actually double then.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions? If you would, just state your name. Do you need to state his name?
It's
and for the
Cliff
record?
Wabdi.
Okay.
I got a question. We've not seen anything. What's the proposed, I guess, scope of work that you're planning on doing to the existing facility to enhance its appearance and, everything?
Well, right now, the parking lot is, I'm sure y'all have seen the
Right.
parking lot. Definitely redo the parking lot, landscape, put a face on the building. I definitely put a lot into it. I've estimated somewhere around $200,000 worth of renovations to the property, so it would definitely look good.
Well, everything that you'd have to do would have to be approved
Right.
here through our department.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah.
So we've not seen any renderings, I guess, then,
He
of
just wanted to see if he could be approved for this use before
moving
he
forward.
submits. He'd have to come back for a site plan architectural review if he is approved and moves forward.
So what happens if we disapprove his site plan?
He can try again.
Yeah.
Well, I can assure you, it'd be something to be proud of. It'd look
Right.
great, so.
Okay.
Car lots fit into a C2, Renee.
They are allowed as a conditional use in the C2, and they're looked at on a site-by-site basis.
Okay.
Personally, I'm not crazy about having 2 car lots out there. If, I think if I was going along with this, I'd want one.
Sure.
What is
Two, like, what do you mean? The one he has?
Not 2 locations.
No,
Right.
well, I think he's saying.
Well, he's saying eventually do it. What I'm saying is definitively do it.
Right.
You're talking eventually as you get this one ready, or?
Right, as I get it ready.
I mean, are you gonna start operation in, just to say this was approved, in the new one as well as operate the old one at the same time? Or when?
No, I would just use the existing one to operate out of while I was preparing.
Doing the renovation, so you
Doing the
wouldn't,
renovation,
you wouldn't
right.
at some time be operating out of both?
No, what I would do, I would just eventually move the business over.
When you got the other one ready?
Right,
You just then
correct.
move over? Okay.
Correct.
Do you own the existing?
I do.
You do. So what would you do with it then? Would you sell it, or I mean?
Well, either lease it, probably lease it.
Okay.
And since it's in the city of Flowood, the city of Flowood will control
What their use would.
utilization of that property. So
Gotcha.
it's not going to be, you guys are not going to need to wrestle with a determination of the existing location.
Well, the only, right, I understand what you're saying, but if we wanted that to be part of the conditions.
Yes. You certainly have the ability to condition your approval today on some sort of arrangement or understanding where when the new facility is ready, there is a termination of the business at the existing location. You can condition it.
Can we condition it that it wouldn't be another car lot?
No.
That's the city of Flowood.
Right.
We
Well,
can
that'd
do
be the
that.
city of Flowood, too. I mean, I understand
Well,
that.
yeah, and I'm sure what they'd be looking at. Okay. Any more questions for?
What was the use of your existing facility before you got there?
It was a car lot as well.
Okay.
And before that, I believe it was a grocery store.
I think you're right. Forgot about that. Yeah.
Swilly's Grocery.
Huh?
Swilly's Grocery.
Yeah, sure was.
The asphalt, you wouldn't have any cars that are not on asphalt?
They would all be on asphalt.
Okay. I don't have a question.
All right, any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak? Okay. Mr. President, I think it's appropriate to close that public hearing. It'd be appropriate to take action.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion
Second.
by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Morrison. Any questions?
Yeah, can we condition that to have them locate one business there?
Yeah, I mean, we can put any kind of condition we want.
Would you go along with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Add that to the condition.
Yes.
Conditions
So,
of what-
if I may just offer a suggestion as one way to work this out, that the existing business would not operate as a business 30 days after the certificate of occupancy is issued by our department to the new facility. So that would be a clear way to delineate the termination of the existing business and the opening of the new business, and just trigger it by the certificate of occupancy being issued.
So you amend your motion and say that
That good?
to the exact words. Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay.
Item
Item F,
F.
Mr. President. This is a public hearing on the Edmund Turnage and Bobby Davis rezoning request, 3021 Highway 80, District 4. Mr. Turnage and Mr. Davis are requesting to rezone the property at 3021 Highway 80 from RE1 to I2. This is a 61.72 acre parcel. They are proposing to construct a 15,000 square foot metal building with an office area of approximately 3,000 square feet, additional warehouse space, and an open area at the back of the building. The building will have a brick fascia along the office area and on each side of the building. The back would continue to be metal. So at this time, we'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in opposition to the Edmund Turnage and Bobby Davis rezoning request. The Mayor, Mr. Brewer.
Lord.
Mr. Brewer, do you want to come forward? You want to come forward, please? Yes. You'll just state your name and your address, and they'll hear your...
My name is Robert Bridges. Address is, it adjoins the property that Craig just mentioned there for you. This particular property's boundaries are Liquid Carbonic Drive on one side, the railroad on one side, Highway 80 on the other side, and my wife and I on the other side, which would be the east side of this property. We've had a nice little house there, lived there for many years. I'd love to go into the Civil War and what's happened since then. It's been a very, very wonderful place for us to live these many years. The problems we have with this rezoning, one was, it's kind of been taken care of now by Greg. The exactly what's going to be done there, it's been pretty much a blank check. They're going to do something, but we aren't sure what. And so it's good to hear what they're thinking of constructing or building in there. We feel that the value of our property will decrease significantly when it goes from the residential to the I guess it's commercial or industrial. I'm not sure what RE1, RE2, and all those mean, but we think that it will lower the value of our property a good bit. Also, it will have the traffic congestion. That area is a two-lane highway all the way from our property into the interstate. And so right now, don't get out there between 6:30 and 8:30 in the morning or after 4 in the afternoon. The traffic is really heavy. So these are our objections pretty much, and we'd like for a little bit more input and information on what they're doing, and obviously why they're doing it is to make money, and why our financials cannot be significantly lowered because of this particular building and structure. Correct.
Thank you.
I apologize, Mr. Bridges, calling you Mr. Brewer. I haven't had my coffee this morning. You can kind of tell. I've known Mr. Bridges a long time. I believe the mayor raised his hand. Come forward, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Kind of the same conversation exists to the east. We're going through, again, that dilemma, and I'm here speaking for the board in unison on this. I'm also speaking for Buster Bailey, Ted Sanderson, and Bill Cook, who own property immediately adjoining it on the other side. And they have concerns. We've been working for a year with them to get a permit and a light installed just past the co-op out there to put in an 800-foot road so they can begin to parcel that out. Finally have reached conclusion with MDOT on that, and now we're actively working to get water and sewer into that property as well. So on behalf of the city of Brandon and to protect other landowners that are out there, that is in our annexation path as well. So it's kind of the same song, second verse that I just iterated a few minutes ago concerning 471. Thank
Where
you.
does the city limits stop at right there?
Carbonic Road.
Carbonic? Okay,
Yes.
it's right there at it.
Right there at it. And the property in question is certificated City of Brandon for water. And the closest sewer is actually on Shallow Road, and we're actively working now to figure out a way to get sewer running there so we can begin to parcel those out. I understand there's a bank and a restaurant and other venues that are ready to come in there as soon as we can achieve that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I can let Renee expand on this, just as a reminder about this piece of property. This piece of property actually appeared on the county zoning map. I suspect that it was from day one that the zoning map was out there and issued and was shown and reflected on the map as I-2. The property has been appraised numerous times as an I-2 parcel. And so it wasn't until this process began moving forward with the potential for construction on it of this building, this warehouse building, it wasn't until that point in time when the discovery was made that what was actually I-2 is the corner of this piece of property. So I believe it's an 80-acre piece altogether.
62.
Well, that's what's being rezoned today, but if you include the carbonic piece,
10.
another 10, so about 72, I'm losing my mind, about 70, roughly 70-acre parcel is what it was initially. A portion of it has already been rezoned to I-2. It's the portion that connects to the carbonic plant on what would be the northwest corner. And so there is an argument to be made that the zoning map erroneously reflected the I-2 zoning. There's also an argument to be made that much effort and energy and expense has gone into the preparation of this piece of property for the proposed use on the basis of the fact that the map was in error. So what's before you is a rezoning request that would accurately reflect what the zoning map reflected and has reflected for a long time. The property immediately to the west of this piece is I-2.
It's already zoned that way.
That's correct.
All he's needing to do is correct the corner.
It's actually a strip of property that, it's a large strip. It's 62 acres.
Right.
But it's deeper than it is wide.
Right.
So contextually, there are bases for you to determine the I-2 use of the property. And in my estimation as legal counsel, those are stronger
because of the history of this piece of property than would be to retain an R1 use on this property.
Renee, can you give us just an overview of, I know what he's, exactly what he's proposing in the 15,000 square foot building?
He's proposing to have 3,000 square feet of an office space and then a warehouse area. He says to work on oil rig motors. He's going to have a yard there for trucks. Also, he said, though, that it's not going to be open for retail. It's just employees that will be coming in and out on the property. And the I-2, you should have, it should be directly accessible to either major thoroughfares or the railroads. That's one of the things that's stated in the I-2. And also the city of Brandon, where it adjoins that property, they have I-zoning there as well, and C3, so.
Okay.
And
What's
this building will be 400 feet off of Highway 80.
400 feet? Now, what about the, as far as, you said that they're gonna be working on, are they gonna, it's gonna be loud noises? I mean, they have hours of operations already kind of somewhat set, and how's?
We haven't talked about the hours of operation, but they said they would not be noisy, that, you know, Denbury is noisy and they would not, so.
This will be the drilling company's corporate headquarters.
Right.
All their rigs and noise-making equipment is in West Texas drilling for oil. And they never bring all that back. I mean, they go from one location to the next location.
Right.
And they never bring it back. It's basically just paperwork that's done at this
location,
facility.
okay.
And then they have some maintenance that takes place in the warehouse space.
Okay. All right. Any more questions?
We can close that public hearing unless the board has any further questions. This time it'd be appropriate to take action.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion by Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Got a second by Mr. Morrison. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Mr. President, item G is the setting of a public hearing for September the 15th at 9 a.m. for the Brian Berkeley conditional use request at 100 Belgrove Road, District 2.
Motion approved.
Got a motion by Mr. Bishop.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Mr. President, the next four items, H, I, J, and K, are all setting a public hearing for the same date and time. I'd ask that those be taken together. This is to set a public hearing for the Derek Boyd conditional use, the Robert Lloyd conditional use, the Samuel and Chandra Long dimensional variance, and the Bob and Jeanette Hall conditional use request.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Bishop.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Mr. President, if I may, a quick point of order here. There is one additional item that I wanted to bring up, and this is the discussion that we had at the work session on our waste tire proposal. You recall, I have drafted and put together an RFP. I believe that you guys have seen that. We at least discussed it at the work session. And so if I may, I'd like for that item to be added as an item of discussion and potential action.
Okay.
If we know that there's another source we can get it done cheaper, why do we have to go through the whole process, and why don't we just go ahead and give him the business?
In this particular case, you don't have to go through the RFP process. We discussed that, and we threw around the possibility that, there may be some benefit to that. But in this particular case, there's so few that provide this particular service that if you guys are aware of a provider and you have the benefit that it's a Rankin County business, and I think that is the case here, then, and because with respect to our existing waste tire provider, we don't have an agreement, there's nothing in place. And so you have the ability, it's a service, you have the ability then to simply move that contract, as it were, actually get one with this provider that has been discussed. It's a Rankin County business.
I make a motion then to just, let's accept the Rankin County provider.
Mr. Morrison, can
We'd
we
have to
add that
add
to
this
the
item
agenda?
to the
And then
agenda.
I want that
Okay.
motion right next.
All right, I make a motion to add it to the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Bishop. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Then I make a motion to go ahead and award the Rankin County individual contract.
Do you know the name of it?
You know his name?
Steve Williamson.
Steve
Williamson.
Williamson.
That's right.
I don't know if he has actually a name, company name. I don't know what that would be.
Okay. Got a motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Bishop. Questions? As long as he does fulfill all the requirements as
Yes,
far as
he'll be
DEQ.
required to meet minimum conditions that are set out by DEQ.
Right.
He has to be licensed by DEQ to even conduct this activity.
Right.
So he'll have to meet those, and I've got, the RFP that I put together has actually got a contract embedded within
Okay.
it, so.
As well as
it's ready to
all
go.
the necessary insurances and things that we require.
That's
So if
correct.
this, so after this is agreed upon, then we can get a contract. Basically,
Yes.
we'd have a contract in
What you're
place.
doing today needs to be conditioned upon Mr. Williamson agreeing to the
Right.
contract terms
Correct.
and executing that. And then we will need, I think as a matter of courtesy, we need to provide the existing provider with some time
Right.
in order to shut down whatever operations. We need to give him a notice period. And so I would suggest maybe 30 days. that We give
Right,
him
I
30
think
days.
I think that would be right.
Okay.
I'm thinking yeah, okay. I was gonna say we need to give, I think, at least 30 days. Okay,
So you good with that motion?
I'm good.
Okay. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Miss Laura Oster, our now new county administrator.
Thank you. The first thing I have today is to accept the proposals and award the contract for maintenance on all county buildings, the HVA system, to Environment Masters in the amount of $125,204, payable quarterly at $31,303, and the contract period is for 3 years, from September of 14 through August of 17.
It's for 3 years?
September. Yep.
We had 3 proposals that we took on this. The current carrier
Was
was.
it 3 years prior to? I mean, before this? Is it, each time's a 3-year contract?
It might have been 4. I'm not sure what the original contract, our current carrier did bid on it, and he happened to be the highest at this time. We had 3 proposals.
Yeah.
Each
Okay.
one
I
of
mean, I
them
was
was-
just wondering was this a year to year, or they all come as 3 to 4 years?
But we have either a 30 or a 60-day out regardless, just a
Okay.
simple notification. So-
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Motion
to
approved.
accept? Motion by
Second.
Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Morrison. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, the second item is authority to amend the contract with Pro Maintenance Pest Control to include the FEMA Safe Room in the amount of $55 monthly.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Johnson. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, the next 2 we can take together, C and D, and that would be the approval of the FY15 budget in the amount of $145,305,023.
Motion approved.
Got a motion by Mr. Bishop. Second by myself. Second by myself. Any questions? When you say we're putting these together, that's both of them together?
Right, that was the,
Added together?
we had the sheriffs separated out, and then the remainder of it was in the second portion, but that's not necessary today, so I'm just combining them.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, the next one is the authority to publish the combined budget for publication.
Motion approved.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrison.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bishop. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, request motion to adopt the General County FY15 tax levy at 40.24 mils, which represents a 0 millage increase over the FY14 levy, and authority to publish that.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Johnson. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
All right, the last thing I have is the ratification of the emergency purchase for the replacement of the siren system controller for the Rankin County Sheriff's Office at dispatch.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Johnson. Any questions?
Yeah, how'd it go yesterday?
100%?
Still have one issue.
Okay.
On Shiloh, so
All right.
everything.
The battery. All right. Very good.
Good. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Sometimes I'm scared to ask.
I really am. I thought about that a little too late.
Additional business be discussed.
Kinda wish you hadn't asked today. Now
That's what I'm
we're on
saying.
Shallow road.
No additional business? Executive session matter?
We have two matters. One is personnel, one is litigation.
Possible litigation.
Great.
Make
Okay.
a motion to discuss the need to go into executive session.
Got a motion by Mr. Johnson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bishop. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Great.
No, sir, I'm trying to
Hey, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming up.
All right, yeah, we just plan on doing that. Thanks, Craig.
Better turn it back on. Yes. No. Yep.
I'm glad you got to see me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Good to have you, David.
Thank you so much.
Lawrence, I'm in here. The litigation matter is a tort claim notice that we received, the county received, from the law firm that's representing Rodney Chambly on a tax matter that is sort of esoteric. I need to explain to you what their claiming, and the reason that I need John is to help sort of explain the fineries of the claim and how the position that we are taking with respect to that claim. And so that's the litigation matter. The personnel matter is, in essence, an IT employee who would be directed and sort of under the auspices of the Election Commission to assist with elections. And so those are your two matters.
Okay. Do I have a motion to go into executive session on these matters?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrison.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bishop. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.